Our daughter was like, when we met you at Decon, she was like, "There's MC, the iPad man."
The iPad man, I know.
Yeah.
That was literally just the iPad that I used to use, because I use StreamYard mostly now for the screen because it's a little easier. But the iPad was just because of just basically just it was just easy for me, like technology, because that's where I was looking. I think I just put it there, and I don't know. People seem to like it. One day I went away from the iPad, and somebody was like, "Where's the iPad?"
That was me.
Bring it back. Was that you?
I said that. Yeah.
I might bring it back. I might bring it back. It's fun. I just kind of, it's
Yeah, it's the tools that you have
now because he's gaming on it. But yeah,
we can relate.
Yeah.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Real Uncommon podcast. I am your host, Hinano. Thank you for joining us today.
And I'm your co-host, D1 and Oli. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks again for joining us. Today, our very special guest is someone that a lot of you may already know, but for those who don't, he has been someone that has helped start new friendships and networking throughout the VeVe community. So, everyone, please welcome Mycollectables.
Hey guys!
Hey man, welcome. Welcome to the basement below Sleepin's basement. It's a little damp down here, so I hope you don't get cold.
You're below Sleepin's basement?
Yeah, we're right below.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I hear Sleepin hitting the floor sometimes, telling me to be quiet.
Yeah, it's just like room down there. Exactly. No, it's good to see you guys.
Yeah.
Thanks for inviting me on. I've been watching your last bunch. I've been watching your vids and stuff, and your awesome conversations and like kind of like casual sort of round tables. But you guys have brought up awesome topics and dove in deep. So yeah, it's cool to be here. I'm happy now that I get to be on your channel. I love it.
Role reversal.
Yeah, man. Best. Thanks for coming. We really appreciate it. We're just a small podcast, right? So yeah, thanks for coming.
That's where we all start. I think we all pretty much are, though. I mean, in the VeVe community, I mean, some of the bigger channels are quite small. Like we're quite small still. We're still growing. There's so much room to grow. So having a channel now at the beginning here, I know it seems like we've been in here forever, but having a channel now and getting your voice out there, it's an opportunity, I think, because like, if you're in the space and you believe like I do, and I know you guys do, that this is going to be here for a long time. People are going to come and they're going to want to like, get info and like hear from different people, get different perspectives. And like, so the more people putting out content, it's great right now. I mean, it's a growing space in general. And, you can talk about more than just VeVe on here. You can talk about all sorts of stuff, which you guys do, right? I mean, you can branch out and like, cause it's the whole space together, right? So it's a pretty cool time. And I feel pretty lucky to be in it. So I've watched a lot of YouTube channels on crypto and of course just channels in general. I kind of get most of my entertainment from YouTube, just personally, like even before all this. And because I don't actually have like cable or anything, I got rid of that like 10 years ago. I don't pay for the basic channels, so I got the Netflix and all that kind of stuff, Disney Plus. But I get a lot of my stuff from YouTube. And I remember, there's one big channel in crypto. You guys probably know him. His name is like BitBoy Crypto. He's kind of famous and big, and he's kind of controversial. And I don't watch his channel all the time, but I remember catching this one video he was talking about where they were talking about like his channel growth and like how he started and stuff. And he had some really good advice. He was like, the first like 2 years or so that he had his channel, that nobody really watched him. Like I wasn't like, because he's got like millions of subscribers now, and they just talk crypto all day, right? Like just and he screams sometimes. It's pretty entertaining, but beginning, he just was making content because he wanted to talk about this stuff, and no one was watching him. Like, she was getting views, but nobody, like, nowhere near being big. And he said, he just kept making content, and he actually he got really good. He said, like, he recognized he got really good at it because he kept on, it's like practicing every day. And then he found like what his voice was, what he wanted to say, and like how he got comfortable. And he got like his show sort of like down pat. He wasn't like trying to make a show, but he just got really good at it because he was doing it all the time. And he kept making videos, even though he wasn't getting tons of views. And then it just started to really grow at one point or another. It just took off for that particular guy. And I was like, that's really interesting. Yeah, because if you're like making content right now in VeVe, we don't have the biggest audience in the world, right? But for myself, I've gotten a lot better from the beginning to now. I feel like, in just how I feel like when I go on and what I want to talk about and how I kind of set it up. And it's just for practice, right? So that's why anyone who's making like content, I was watching his video. I was like, that was really interesting advice. Just keep making content if you're liking it and you get really good at it, or, at least you get like, you know what I mean? It becomes easier. It's hard. You can't go from like 0 to like, if your goal is to have like 10,000 subscribers or something, like anybody, right? That doesn't happen like right away. So, I don't know. I just think it's cool for people. That's why I always just say, like, make a channel, have some fun, share your voice, and like get into it if you can, especially now, right? When it's so early.
What was your first collectible that you got on VeVe?
Yeah.
And do you still have it?
I don't have it, but it was the Web of Spider-Man, the Ben Reilly comic. That was my first drop that I landed. I comment on that. That was the first drop I ever did. And I managed to get one. That was like late October. And so I downloaded the app around that time, like mid-October. I think the 17th or the 18th is when I created my account. And I didn't get anything for probably a week or something. I just kind of looked around, and I can't remember the exact date of that comic, but the drop came, and I like, kind of watched a few videos, like people like OG Vault now, right? Because he changed his name. Yeah. It's
yeah.
And so, that was the first drop I ever did. And I got one. I got a comment, and I was like, oh, this is cool. That kind of clicked for me. Like landing a drop, like that kind of made it for me. It wasn't even like profiting from it. It was just like that I got one. I was like, oh, cool, I got one. And it was a really neat feeling, And during the times after that, it became very difficult to get a drop. So it was cool. And then I held it for like the longest time just because of nostalgia. And then I sold it at some point. I don't remember how much for, like maybe 15 or 20 gems or something, because all those comics went up, but everything else was up too, so it's all relative, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, that was the first one I ever got. The first collectible I ever bought, actually just bought, was one of the black and white Batmans. I can't remember which one, but not Todd. I didn't get Todd till like the springtime of like last year.
I remember. Yeah, we're all on that stream with you.
Yeah, that's right. And no, it was like one of the cheaper ones.
Jason Fabic?
I think it's the one where he's standing like this, that one. I can't remember the name of it now. Eludes me, but I wanted a Batman because I saw the Todd, and I couldn't get that. It was too expensive then for me. And also, I wasn't sure about the platform, like I wasn't going to put dollars in. I didn't even know like what this whole thing was about.
Yeah.
I knew I wanted a Batman. I wanted the Spider-Man. Actually, the first video I ever made was because of the Spider-Man FA, like just the collectible. I remember that's when it started to click in my mind. I was like, wait a second, Spider-Man's first appearance is on this platform, and because of the comic in the real world. Now that we have the comic, but like that's big. I started to understand and so that was my first video, was to just tell everybody, hey. You not tell VeVe people either. I just wanted to make a video. I wanted to tell someone because no one I knew was, talking about it. And I was like, I had to talk about the Spider-Man's first appearance ever online, basically, is in this app. And I was just like, that's mind blowing to me at the time. I just was like, I started to really understand like this is like, that's a big deal. And then now a year later and a lot of other stuff has come, but it's still a massive deal that his first appearance is sitting in this app. And I know we're in a downtrend, right, with how much he's worth, and he's got tons of additions compared to other stuff, but it's still Spider-Man. I mean, it's crazy to me, right? And this is the first and only, really. A couple other variations, but the one, it's going to be big if this whole space keeps going and going and going like it should. And the edition sizes, the amount of people in the world, it's nothing.
Exactly.
It's like, are you like, oh yeah, there's 16,000 uncommons or something? That's nothing.
Yeah. Yeah, there's more people on this little island that I live on. So, put that in perspective, you know.
Well, me and VeVe that was here just owned a single Spider-Man. There'd be none on the market.
Right.
Yeah. Give Silicon some time. So.
Everybody just had
We'll
just
be
put
buying it all up soon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was my first, the comic book, the Ben Reilly, the world of man.
So I want to touch on that because I'm a child of the 80s and I'm a big fan of nostalgia. I love Batman, like Michael Keaton's like my Batman. I remember Gremlins, Goonies.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember a TV show or a movie called The Explorers. It was a Joe
100%.
Dante film.
I love
with the trash can in front of the spaceship. So that's the era I came from,
Phoenix.
right? Yes, River Phoenix.
Believe me, I know. I own that movie digitally on Apple. Like I bought it, and my kids are like, "Yeah, it's all right." I'm like, "That movie was awesome." It's Steven Spielberg, right?
I saw that in the theater, man. I remember watching that in the theater. So
me too. I loved it.
A DVD for it.
We do.
Yeah.
But so my question is, because nostalgia is really big on me. Like my first collectible I bought was a DeLorean. I sold it, unfortunately, but at the time I always wanted one. I had one. And so like that's the collectible for me that brings back that nostalgia. You get that chicken skin in your gut and stuff. What collectible on the app does that for you where you have it, you bought it, it reminds you of your childhood, reminds you of growing up, the times we didn't have cell phones, we didn't have the internet, we had to go to our friend's house to bug them, or we tied up the phone line. What collectible does that for you?
Yeah, for me it hasn't come yet. I mean, I love all sorts of stuff. Like the Star Wars stuff is incredible for me. The Boba Fett is that one for me. The Boba Fett's probably my favorite on the app, just because it's Boba Fett. Like I'm a huge fan. But it hasn't come yet because I'm waiting for like Transformers, He-Man, G.I. Joe, that kind of stuff. That if we got like Transformers on here, that like Prime or something like that, or Starscream or whatever. That would really just that would do it for me, because growing up, those are the toys I used to play with, 80s kid. And the DeLorean, the movie, like that's great and everything. And some of the other stuff, RoboCop's pretty cool. But that was like an adult movie, right? People don't remember that RoboCop is not for kids. Like the original.
Yeah, no, totally.
I was still in the theater.
Maybe a kid in the 80s.
Yeah.
Still made it in the theater. Nobody stopped us. But there's not a movie. But yeah, no, we don't quite have them yet. For me, from the real 80s stuff, that's why I'm glad that David, you is such an 80s fan. You can tell that all the stuff we're getting is like right down that wheelhouse, right? And whether or not he's to acquire those IPs is a question. But if we got if we got the trifecta right there, the G.I. Joe, He-Man, or Transformers, because those are the toys that I collected. And actually in my store, those are the vintage toys that I would buy, sell, and trade mostly. And Star Wars, mostly the vintage. But Star Wars for me, because I was born in the 70s, but I wasn't I didn't see the first two movies in the theater. Like I saw Return of the Jedi in the theater. And that was like the biggest deal of all time, like seeing that. I remember that one coming to the theater and going to watch that and just having my mind blown. And I saw the other two like at birthday parties or something on early VHS or whatever. I might have seen Empire Strikes Back in the theater, maybe. The other one for me that would really just blow my mind would be Indiana Jones. Like if we get Indiana Jones, I think we will, because there's an article that came out a long time ago, and they were talking about Lucasfilm and Indy, and it was mentioned in a VeVe article down below, about Lucasfilm. I think it might be in the Darth Vader article, but Indy was mentioned there, and I was like, oh, we're getting Indiana Jones, and number 5 is coming right this summer.
Yeah.
So I think if we get Indy himself and he looks like Harrison Ford, that's because that was the first ever movie. There's 2 movies. I don't know which one was first. I can't confirm with my dad because he can't remember, but Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, or Raiders of the Lost Ark, those 2 movies, one of those 2 movies, the first movie I ever saw in the theater. That's what was, my dad took me to both of those, and they came out, close around that time. And so, yeah. So if we get Indy in here and they give us the Ark or the Idol or something from Raiders, I'll just be like, that will get me the chicken skin goosebump, and if Optimus Prime in here or something like that, oh man.
Yeah, man. Like for me, we have
Star Wars because of my Star Wars background. That's why when I got Vader, I freaked out. And that's why when Boba Fett got announced, I freaked out. And that's why Alex, like, he just laughs at me because he's, and that's why I think he said he came on to do the Spider-Man comic because like I'm such a big fan of Spider-Man. But I was when Vader was announced, like when Boba Fett was announced, I was live, right? I was sitting here like I'm alive. I can't like back, and I was like, no, believe it. Like they were getting him, and I still can't believe that he's not like incredibly valuable. But it is what it is.
Yeah, no, for sure. And like for me, we have the IP that's here already, but it's not the right collectible for me. Like I'm a big Star Trek fan. Like Wrath of Khan, I really wish I saw in the theater. I didn't.
Yeah.
The only movie I saw in the theater as a kid was Undiscovered Country. You know what I mean? From the old series, right? Yeah. Oh no, I'm sorry, Final Frontier, and then Undiscovered Country. I saw those two.
Number 5 and 6, beautiful movies. Love those movies.
Beautiful movies, yeah. But I want the original Enterprise. I want that. I want the Connie. You know what I mean? I don't want the fat one. I don't want the Galaxy class, and I don't want the big fat avocado. I want the original Constitution. Give me that, and I will be happy. You know what I mean?
That would be. I know we were talking about that because they had a Star. Remember before they had the Star Trek drop that was coming, and we all thought original Enterprise.
Yeah.
On Warbird or whatever that was, not the real one, or did we get which one did we get again?
Diedrichs.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
and I wanted the original, like original Enterprise from the TV show. If we got those characters, like imagine if we got like the 3D characters of like the crew, like McCoy, Kirk, like all of them, Sulu, like we get a 5 set of them because there's or we go 6 or 7 deep on that one, but like I mean that would be, and they were all there just standing there with their like whatevers, and maybe like maybe Spock is secret rare and he's animated and he gives you one of those, or he does the or just
like flips over or something,
his eyebrow. And then you have the guys right there with like an original Klingon ship, and I mean we have Star Trek, so it's got to be coming. We got to be getting off at some point because I mean, those Star Trek movies, if you grew up in the 80s and you watched them, they were like, they're the only thing because I'm in the toy collecting, right? And all that, they always seem to miss on the toys. Like the TV show didn't really have a lot of merch. And then it went to rerun. And then they came out with the Mego or the Mega toys in the 70s, Mego or Mego or whatever people call it, MEGO. And they have that line in the 70s with all the superheroes as well and everybody. And they had the Star Trek toys there. And that was really cool. But there was no movie at the time. So then they were like, oh, Star Wars comes out and it does so amazing. So the Star Trek people are like, let's put out the motion picture. So they put out the motion picture and they put a bunch of toys out, right? Like a whole run of toys because they were doing what Star Wars did. And the movie was like good, but didn't really hit like Star Wars did.
It's kind of seminal.
Yeah, it was kind of like, right, exactly, right? It was a really like movie and kind of. And so then like, okay, but then Star Trek 2, they come out and it's like the best of all of them, most people think. And they didn't put out any toys. Like there's no toys, there's nothing. And so they missed, right? And then they're like, oh, okay. Everyone likes Star Trek. So they put out Search for Spock and they put out a bunch of toys, but it wasn't as good, right? So like they missing the boat on the merchandising, right? With it's a kind of a funny thing with Star Trek toys, right? That's from the toy side anyway.
Which is funny because now I collect starships, so I've got about maybe 60 or 70 like stacked on the wall over here of Star Trek starships. So it's weird, I know, but
I had that models Enterprise and it was painted in glow in the dark paint and hung from my ceiling.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it glowed.
That's the one with the saucer section all destroyed?
Yeah, and it was actually fully intact. Like
okay,
and from the movie, so I think it was a Star Trek 2 version, but not destroyed. And it was, and of course, I made it like I burned it a bit just to make it look like it,
yeah.
About that, the I had those models as well, the Battlestar Galactica ones, because that was a really show at the time, right? And so I used to love that show. And so when we got Battlestar Galactica here, it was cool, but we didn't quite get the ones I want.
You want the older one, the old school one.
Yeah, I want the old school ones, but we'll get them, I'm sure, at some point. You'd think.
Well, I'm different, right? So I like the niche, and so the ones that we got for Battlestar Galactica was the ships that I wanted.
Nice.
And I have those in physical form too. I have like the Vipers, and I have the Pegasus and the Valkyrie and all that stuff.
Awesome.
Like I said, I'm weird like that. But
No,
when we got that announcement, you can ask her. I was jumping for joy. I own 6 of those things just because I want them. Right?
Yeah.
I minted 2 just to have them. And who knows? Maybe one day I'll do something with them in the VeVe verse. If not, I'll just have I'll have 6 Battlestars that I can play with at least.
You can play with them, yeah. I fight the same way. I minted that. I was like, I'm minting. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm minting a TIE fighter. I'm keeping it. The same way. I haven't sold it. I'm keeping it.
Well, it goes back to what you said, that these are the first appearance of these IPs on the blockchain. And, that is pivotal, especially since we're going through all these digital products, the digital age of NFTs and Web3. And I go back to like Fortnite. We have this conversation about Fortnite. Yeah. I just had a conversation about somebody spending a bunch of money on skins on Fortnite. And it's like, okay, you're going to do that on a video game, whether it's skins on Fortnite or Roblox, and, a lot of money gets spent on that every day. Well, what's the difference with buying a digital collectible? You know what I mean? It's the same thing, but at least you have the ownership of that asset, right?
Yeah. The pay to earn gaming system is coming, right? So that's coming. The pay to earn, like where you own your assets, like with Fortnite. If they did that, where you actually owned your skins, then and you could take them like where you don't
on a wallet.
Oh, it's going to evolve for sure. Like when Fortnite people stop playing it, because inevitably, theoretically they will, but that also might not be true too, because there's games that have been online, like EVE Online and other big games like that, like World of Warcraft. I mean, people play them for 10 years or 12 years or 15 years or whatever. So if they keep updating it, it'll be there. But owning your own assets on there, that's why this, some of these other games are coming out. I was looking into the one game called Blancos, which is kind of like a fun little game, where you jump around, but you actually own all your your skins and stuff like that. And there's a marketplace built in that you can buy and sell. And so it's like that to me is seemingly the future of it all, And so they just have to develop the high-end version of the games with that in place as well. Like these little games they have right now, they're not like AAA games, right? But if you come up with a Star Wars game like Battlefront or something, but you actually own all the stuff, and maybe you're able to take your TIE fighter in there, because you own the TIE fighter in VeVe, maybe that unlocks the TIE fighter in the game, because it's all Star Wars, right? Like, why not,
Yeah.
Just on the road, but not be able to fly the actual TIE fighter in VeVe, but it would unlock the fact that you could use TIE fighter. I don't think this is when it comes to our Marvel Mighties and stuff like that, and gamification of our NFTs, I don't think that we'll be able to use them, the exact ones we have, because you'll have to animate them, and it sounds too crazy. But what it would do is the ownership of it allows you to game in some way,
like a pass or something like that.
Yeah, because you can't suddenly take, in my mind, you can't take Doctor Doom's Marvel Mighty and suddenly you're walking around with him in there like that, because it's not set up that way. That would be eons in the future. And you know how many thousands of collectibles we have, how long that would take to digitize them and animate them all. So the ones are fun to display, but the unlocking of games that you have, and I think Alex actually was talking about this days ago. He was thinking of the Mighties more as chess pieces, if there was a game, you'd have it sort of like that kind of thing. You'd have you'd be able to move them around, but they wouldn't suddenly all of a sudden come along and be running around. You'd have to, maybe you could get into a game like that, maybe with the Labbits or something. Maybe there's a game that gets made where they're actually running around, but in order to get there, you have to own the set, or something, or. So this is it's evolving. It's so evolving. But to have a ship, and fly a TIE fighter around, thank you.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that idea of having your collectible, and it makes sense. We have them already. You don't have to mess with them, but use it as a pass or a key to unlock something in another game or metaverse of some type.
Well, if you could somehow sit down in a private conversation with David and Dan and Mitch and all of them, and Alex as well, and just see their actual roadmap in their heads of where, and I know it's changed. I think just watching what they've been talking about the last year or two, and since I've been involved, their idea of what they wanted to do has changed for sure. Like, I don't like when you listen to the origins of the company and you talk even just about the logo, they talk about what they were doing at that time, you know, selling collectibles, hoping people would come here, that kind of thing. And then I think it's evolving with them, even what their plan is at the end of the line, right? It has to change because things change, right? Just like other opportunities come out that they may not have even thought of, like other things they connect with that have created something. So I always think that what's ahead of us is like unknown, like they're inventing it. And so, you know, when you're sitting here with a company that's got all this great stuff, all these unbelievable brands, and they're like inventing something that's never been done, it's hard to even predict what that's going to look like because it hasn't been done yet. And so while we're sitting here, we have a front row seat to this whole thing being invented. And not just VeVe, other companies are doing it too. They're like figuring out what we're going to be doing and what people can do. And I don't think anyone knows yet because it hasn't been created yet. You know, it's like about what, you know, Netflix was until it was created, or Facebook. Like these things came out of like people's minds as they developed and created and pushed it forward, but nobody conceived that necessarily. Like you can go back in time and watch interviews of famous people who were into tech and all sorts of stuff, and they can kind of like Star Trek's a good example. I mean, you could look at their prediction of flip phones and iPads and all sorts of stuff from just watching their TV show. You know, it's crazy if you actually look at what they were doing then, right? And so the communicator, it's like literally a flip phone.
It all came true.
Yeah, and the next generation, they're literally walking around with iPads, you know, it's insane. And so and touchscreen technology, right? That, remember, if you watch older movies, it was always like they're in the future and they had like a keyboard, you know, and like they have but like the next generation TV show, I mean, they're like literally touching the screens, you know? And so if you think about that, that's, you know, so we don't even know what the VeVe verse is, or not even just but like it hasn't even been invented. So it's all going to be really fascinating. I think it's going to blow people's minds because other companies are doing the exact same thing. They're trying to figure it out. So in the meantime, I mean, you can just collect all these amazing things that you know have value because they have value in physical space, big time. And so, and because people love the brands, the fandom is built in. So you can collect this stuff and have fun with it. And you can do some AR stuff with it right now and just kind of goof around and enjoy looking at it. Like most collectors, you know, if you're a physical toy collector and you're an adult, you're not necessarily playing with your stuff. You're more displaying it. And when you look at it, it's like eye candy, and it brings you back to a time when you did play with it. Like when I would get physical toys like He-Man, for example, or Transformers that I mentioned, and I see the packaging of it as an original toy that's never been opened, right? That's the kind of stuff that I would normally collect. It would take me back to being in the toy store when I was a kid and seeing them on the wall and going, whoa, you know? And at that particular moment in time, the packaging and the design of those packages and the toys and stuff in that era they're just like, they were so revolutionary, you know, like for consumerism, for toy purchasing, like to see like the way they design those packages and stuff. So it takes you back there if you were there. So, you know, when you see stuff like here, like if you have a collector and you have your comics on the wall, or you have toys or whatever you collect, or statues or figurines like this guy here, when you look at it, it's like you see the show, you have all these kind of, and it's almost like you don't think about it. It just gives you a nice little feeling. Like if you're at your desk, because with my job as graphic design, I'd be at my desk, I'd just doing my work, and then I could just look over and I see like R2 sitting over there, and I'm just like, it's kind of nice. I don't think about it, talk about it, but it's a feeling. So you can do that with your VeVe stuff now. You can go on, you can look at them and stuff and share them. And then at some point, we'll be able to go into a place where we can just have them there, and like we can have our own display set up. We can go over to other people's places. And then beyond that, we don't know. Like we don't know what the limit. There's no limit. There is literally no limit to the digital space of what could be created. So it's like being invented, and we just get a front row seat. It's amazing. And when they add more newer IPs, because you know the stuff is very 80s centric. And I've mentioned it a few times, like, are we going to get stuff from the early 2000s that appeals to the younger generation that's in VeVe and it hits their nostalgic like feelings? or like the stuff from the 90s. Like, you know, we're getting a lot of 80s stuff, which is right in my wheelhouse. I'm like, oh yeah, here we go. Rambo or whatever, maybe we'll get him, right?
Rambo,
Indie and all these kind of ones. But like, you know, and I asked that question to Alex one time when I had him on. I said, are you guys going to be doing like, and he's like, oh, for sure. Like they're just going to move up. And so you'll get stuff that'll appeal to somebody who's like born, who, you know, their wheelhouse is 1999 or something, as opposed
to 2000s, right?
Yeah, and it'll get that in the app, and I might go, oh yeah, that's cool, whatever, that's all good. But someone's going to be like, oh my god, I was a kid, and that's exactly what I want to have in my collection. So it's just endless, right? And you know they're out there. Like the only thing about it is it's interesting. Like they, you know, I was looking at this thing recently where the question about NFT projects is like, if you're not making money other than just selling new stuff, like new versions of it, like then you're not sustainable. And so it's the creation of like a VeVeverse where it gives you the opportunity to do certain things like gamification stuff in there. We're not necessarily like I said, them run if we were mighty suddenly animated, but like being able to do stuff in there with them, or like having some of these additional features unlock. You know, I did a video about like some things I think they need, like trading and stuff like that, to give us more reasons to interact. And they can take a small fee from that, which then enables the project to keep generating money without creating new drops. Like they need to have ideas where they create revenue and create opportunities without just supplying us with new things to buy all the time. And that will strengthen the company and give us more reasons to play and hang out here and stay here and log in every day, other than just looking at the market and like flipping stuff, right? You need to give us reasons to not flip and buy and sell, and that's it. That's all we got. You got to give us like the trading aspect that is huge, because you can then connect with more people. Like you could connect with like other people and like build relationships that way, and you're even buying or selling anything, you're just like, you know, completing sets, or maybe you can sell a full set, you know, and then you can do
you're looking for a special mint or something like that, you know?
Yeah, I mean? Like, you know, there's all sorts of things. So hopefully that's part of what they're looking at, because if it's just for the end of time, you know, here's another drop to buy, that's not, to me, like as sustainable as other projects are going to be, and you can see them developing. So the first, I think, is really gonna be different for people. And you know, I think a lot of people have to just sit and like just wait to see what they're gonna do with that. And then once you see what's going on with that, if it's not what you want, then, you know, whatever. But I'm not, I have to wait. I have to see what's coming first, because I know it's there. And the delays are annoying for people, but not for me, because I'm having fun in the meantime. But it's like we don't even know what it's going to be, you know, and it's hard for some people. They need to know, but at the same time, can't know because it hasn't been invented.
We don't know because they don't know.
Like, but once you see it, like, hopefully, if they deliver on this kind of stuff, and that's why we got to keep sharing ideas to them and say, oh, what about this? What about this? Because it could lead to some other idea that they could go, whoa. And that's why we got to do in other projects too, to see what they're doing, because it's fun too. You can, like, you know, so it's all just developing.
No, it's touching on the VeVeverse. I wanted to ask, are you planning ahead, or are you like coming up with a plan of what you're gonna have for your space?
Yeah, well, not hugely. Like I'm keeping the stuff. Like I don't have a ton of collectibles, right? I have like 24, 25. It's all the stuff I really just like. And I only have like one copy of each, pretty much. Whereas the comics I kind of stack, right? Like I'm starting to stack for a master collector a lot lately. Like last night I bought like 30 comics, and I'm only up to just Did you?
Yeah, like there were comics for like $1.85 on the floor. I was sweeping last night.
Yeah, I bought up 30 of the Darth Mauls of the common, not because I think it's like a valuable comic. I just really love the cover, just the common, and I want to have ones like that I enjoy, that I like looking at when I scroll. There's certain comics I don't want to see in my
Me too.
How cheap
Yeah.
I don't care how they are. I just don't want to see them there. I'm just not interested in them, and so I try to find a comic I really like, and then if it's cheap, and I've started to do that in the last like month and a half. Before that, it was all Amazing Fantasy, just everything all there. Like and I have 30 of them now, so I'm pretty confident. I want to add more, but now I'm like, okay, I need to switch gears and stack up some Master Collector stuff, at least so I'm somewhere in the middle, because I was going to be way down below, like not even close to some of these people, but I wanted to be up there, and so I've started to really do that. So so I got so I'm more preparing that, to answer your question, I'm more preparing for like mid-level Master Collector, just so I'm in the mix. I want a better chance than I did before, and I want to build my the amount of comics I have. The collectibles I'll do the same, but I have to have a collectible that's stackable that I really, really like at a good price. I actually really like the Invisible Woman common, because she's like about 4. And so I bought one of her. I bought actually about 4 or 5 of her, and then I traded them all for a 3-digit. Like I got like a number 301 for like $10 or something.
Wow.
So and it's just, I just like the way it looks, so I haven't like made videos about it or anything, but that's when I thought maybe, because there's tons of her, I could stack up like 30 or 40 just for the points and just to have a whole bunch of her. But then I was kind of like, well, no, I think I'll just do it with the comics, because the opportunity to burn them and the opportunity to like trade them in for new other things, and I don't know. So I'm not preparing like my VeVe verse for anything other than just displaying the stuff I really like. Now, thing is though, is that these set completions, of some of this stuff is going to be really key in the VeVe verse. Like you're gonna, like we already know, you're gonna need to have like a full set of the Labus to get into his space. I mean, you already know that stuff is going to happen, because in the VeVe verse, there's going to be, like we heard this at Decon, right? All this kind of people kind of start to forget, but we heard like there could be like a Disneyland. Get into Disneyland, you're going to need whatever to get there. Or to have access, right? Like this is one way that they can really make those, those sets, those golden moments important, because we know that Disney's not going to do it. Like we already heard that Disney's not going to give us park access for a partner statue necessarily, like in their real world parks. We kind of heard Disney's not so interested recently from Alex, that they're not so interested in doing that, or they're not really sure about that stuff yet. But VeVe can do it. Like VeVe can do it themselves, the VeVe verse. They can say, okay, they can add access utility to these things without even Disney having to do it. Because we were thinking like, oh, if you get a partners, maybe you get half price on your Disneyland ticket or something, right? Like, but it doesn't look like Disney's wants to do that kind of thing. But in the VeVe verse, for example, you might like to get into the Star Wars, like
gotta own all lightsabers or something like that.
Maybe you need to own the golden moment R2 and C3PO, or maybe need to own a Vader. Like I don't know, like who knows, they could do any of this stuff. So I'm a bit like worried about that. So I completed my Vader set a couple weeks ago. I had the ultra rare the whole time. I got it on the drop, but I bought the other 2 because they're like $50 now. And so I just like, I gotta have that Vader set complete. I got the Boba set complete. I got the R2 and golden moment set complete. I got those are the 3 big ones for me. And then I have little pieces of the others, like I have the TIE Fighter, and I have like Obi-Wan and that kind of, like I don't have like all those sets, but I'm thinking to myself like, because the Star Wars is the one that I would want to go to the most. So I don't or going, oh, I need to get the lightsabers now. They're all like booming in price, and I could have bought them now for nothing. And yeah. I am thinking about that, D. Like I'm trying to like, how do I position for the VeVe verse? But I think in the meantime, I'm just buying the ones I really like, and then I'm trying to get the Master Collector, because I know even though there's delay, guys, it's coming, and it's coming fast. And I know it's delayed, and but once it's gonna come really quickly, it's gonna be like, oh, there's no bugs now. Boom, phase 1 is open, and you're gonna be like, oh shit, I'm ranked 50,000th. These drops, so I'm gonna have to step my game up. So. And then when everybody else is going to do that, because you know what leaderboards do to people.
Yeah, competition. So
I'm competitive,
and it'll be fun. You know what I mean?
Amazing. So I can for 20 minutes straight, you guys.
No.
Ask me the right question, I'll talk for 20 minutes straight.
This is great, and I love it. The only thing is, we're probably going to have to jump off soon because we got Girl Scouts.
We're gonna sell some cookies.
We'll have to have a part 2 and 3 and 4.